After the release of the US inflation data, investors began to sell the US dollar as the slowdown in a consumer price growth signals an easing of the Fed's monetary policy. Looking ahead, we will find out what events in the first half of the next week's trading are likely to influence traders' sentiment. Monday will offer little news. Market participants will be looking for trading ideas from any information, so you should be extra attentive and take into account any releases. For example, the People's Bank of China will announce its decision on the loan prime rate on a Monday. The state of the Chinese economy as one of the superpowers affects stock markets around the world, namely the appetite for risk. Therefore, news that the rate will remain unchanged may spark speculation about the sluggish recovery of the global economy. Against this backdrop, investors will likely turn to safe haven assets, and the Australian dollar is likely to depreciate. By the way, focusing on the risks not only for the global economy but also for the Australian economy, which directly depends on China, goes into assessing the prospects for the Reserve Bank of Australia's monetary policy. Most likely, Reserve Bank of Australia head Michelle Bullock will talk about it on a Tuesday. At the meeting on November 7, the regulator decided to raise the interest rate by 25 basis points. Be they emphasize that further steps would depend on the potential risks. It seems that the vague prospects for the Chinese economy are quite serious risks for the sustainability of the Australian economy, which is one of the main commodity exporters to the Chinese industry. Therefore, the sell-off in the Australian currency is likely to continue on Tuesday. Investors will continue to focus on consumer prices, and next in line is in Canada, where inflation is quite stable and does not show the sharp spikes that we see in the United States and Europe. Analysts are confident that the price growth will continue to decelerate to 3.2% from 3.8%. Reassuring investors of the stability of the Canadian economy. Against the news, the Canadian dollar's investment appeal may increase, and the release of the minutes from the Federal Reserve's meeting will provide a small respite for the US dollar investors. After the minutes of the previous meeting, the US currency received a significant boost. Investors thought that the central bank was still leaving the door open for further rate hikes. Perhaps the same rhetoric may revive investor interest in a short-term speculation. The minutes will contain the assessment of the US economy without taking into account a sharp slowdown in inflation. On Wednesday, investors will closely watch the report on the production and the consumption in the United States, the volume of orders for durable goods. In general, expectations for this indicator are always rather pessimistic, and the actual data is often higher than the forecasts. Analysts expect this indicator to decline by 3% in October, which is unfavorable for the US assets. However, the statistics may also surprise investors this time. We will monitor the market reaction to the above-mentioned reports. Subscribe to our channel and follow changes in market sentiment with us. Any comments, questions and offers are welcomed. We wish you profitable trading and see you soon!